Chapter 13. That night, Captain Seth had a difficult time sleeping. Maybe it was the mission that kept him up, maybe it was the fact that he lost the race, or maybe it was Santiago's behavior in the conference room. He looked at the clock by his bed. 01:59 hours. Usually, when he tossed and turned like that, it was better for him to get up and about rather than to continue to try and fall asleep. That way he could wear himself out sooner, or at least that was his theory. He decided to stop by the bridge for the night watch. There were only 2 or 3 officers there, with one sitting directly in his seat. He stood up to his feet as soon as he saw the captain.
Captain on the bridge.
At ease, Lieutenant. I'm just having a little trouble sleeping. You mind if I take over for an hour or so?
She's all yours. I'll be in my quarters when you need me to resume my shift. But you don't have to do anything. As soon as you leave the bridge, the computer will alert me to come back and take over.
Understood, Lieutenant. You're dismissed.
For some reason, he really wanted some alone time on the bridge, just by himself, piloting the ship through the emptiness of space. He quickly signaled the other 2 officers on the night shift to leave the bridge. I should be able to handle it, he thought. He sat in his seat and took a deep breath as he embraced that new ship smell. Suddenly, he heard the doors open from the turbo lift. To his surprise, it was Commander Ariele from the Excelsior. He thought that both she and Santiago had already returned to their ship hours ago.
Commander, how nice of you to stop by. Coming at a rather late hour, aren't we? It's 200 hours.
I might have said the same to you, Captain. Surely the captain of the Dragonfly can find some other officer to take the night watch.
I just had a little trouble sleeping, that's all.
I only wanted one last look around the bridge before I went back to the Excelsior. I may not have many other opportunities to get a tour. She's quite a ship, I hear.
Yeah, well, I'm really just getting to know her. I'm just hoping that it's the start of a beautiful relationship, you know? Like a first girlfriend, you want it to be perfect.
And of course...
It never is.
Seth thought that there was something very charming about her. She was also quite young for her position of first officer. She was only 27 according to her profile. He knew that she could be strong and authoritative, but he sensed something else from her.
So, what do you think of the bridge?
It's... sleek. Not like our archaic bridge on the Excelsior.
Have you seen the new navigational system?
I've seen Ensign Esther use it, but I'm not familiar with how it works.
Here, let me show you. Have a seat. Just hold still for a moment.
Immediately, Ariele felt something materialize on her eyes, and it felt very cold. She was momentarily startled by it.
Don't worry about that. As soon as you sit down, the computer transports specialized contact lenses onto your eyes. This is your screen. It allows you to see a 3-dimensional view of the ship and the systems around it.
As she stared ahead, she could in fact see a small image of the ship right in front of her eyes, with all of the navigational information there as well, including the exact speed and charted course.
Starfleet, in fact, has the technology now to have everything in 3 dimensions. But with navigational control, tactical display, and a huge main viewer, there was just way too much clutter going on around the bridge all at once. So Starfleet invented specialized contact lenses that allow only the operator to view the necessary information. So Lieutenant Commander Thorne also gets his own for tactical display, where it shows our complement of torpedoes, phaser capacity, shield strength, and also for enemy ships. Although, I have a hard time imagining exactly how those lenses fit onto his eyes, since I've never seen his eyes before.
This is amazing. How do I navigate the ship?
Put your hands out, just above the console. The positioning of your hands will dictate the orientation of the ship. Raise your right hand and lower your left hand, and the ship will tilt to the left. Raise your left hand and, well, you get the idea.
Incredible. Where was all this when I was an ensign?
Don't worry, it's all new to me too. You've seen our main viewer, haven't you?
She got a good look at the very wide screen. Seth wanted to expand the view to the whole bridge so that they can see the stars pass over, under, and behind them. It was possible now because of the number of holo emitters installed all over the bridge. Functionally, they were designed to support the medical holographic nurses in case the doctor was unable to reach the bridge. That was standard on all ships now.
Can your main viewer do this?
Captain Seth programmed the view of space to cover them entirely, over their heads and under their feet. It felt a little bit silly, actually, since it looked like 2 bodies just floating in space at sublight speeds. But no one could deny that the view was stunning. Seth navigated the ship right by a nebula, which had a stunning mix of blue, red, and purple gases.
The computer takes sensory information and projects it as a holographic image.
Ariele laughed a little more. It was nice to see her more loosened up. Seth had only seen her as a commanding officer. But they both soon realized that having this view was a little disorienting, because they couldn't see the ground below them. The holographic images didn't make everything around the bridge invisible, just muted. They both struggled to stand straight and stumbled around a little bit.
Careful. The hall emitters can make the room look like empty space, but that chair is still very much there.
You know, I'm pretty sure this would be easier to do on the holodeck.
I know, but in a holodeck, you know you're just standing there with a bunch of fake images. This way, you really know that we're flying. And that's a real nebula.
Yes, it is. Thank you, Captain.
We'll be arriving at our destination in just a few days.
Are you nervous about the mission?
Well, since you're Captain Santiago's first officer, and not mine, I guess I can be a little more honest with you. But yes, I'm a little nervous. I truly am grateful of the trust that Admiral Roth has placed in me, but I can't help but be a little apprehensive about the outcome. I mean, we had only just a few days of shakedown time, and we're already on our first mission. I don't know my ship yet. I don't know my crew. I don't even know myself, as a captain anyway.
Don't worry, Captain. You will do fine, I'm sure of it. Captain Santiago and I also only had a few days to get our seats warm. We started our first mission almost immediately, with many of the senior officers still yelling at Captain Santiago because that wasn't the way we did things. But he ended up doing fine.
What do you think of Alan?
You mean Captain Santiago?
There's no need to be formal. I won't spill a word.
Ariele looked suspicious at first, with her eyes narrowing when he asked her. But she soon decided that there was really nothing to hide.
Do I have permission to speak freely?
Of course.
Well, we've only been with him for a month, so it's hard to fairly judge him. But if you must know, I think he's brilliant, opinionated, strong-willed, eager. I want to say brave, but that's not quite the right word. He's fearless, which sometimes makes him look like he's taking unnecessary risk. He's young, as are you, so some of the more experienced officers often question his decisions.
I've already run into a little bit of that myself.
But at the end of the day, his crew trusts him.
A natural leader, you think?
Yeah, I suppose you could say that. He's a very passionate person. There's no doubt that he will make a great captain one day, if he isn't considered one now. But like I said, he's only been in command of the Excelsior for a month.
I see.
Look, you just have to show your crew that you're thinking of them in all of the decisions you make. This is the 25th century, remember? There's no money. You can't tell someone to do something just because you're paying them. I mean, ultimately you have your rank, but if you really want to pull the best out of your officers, you have to show that you have their interests at heart, even above your own. Even if your decision comes at their expense or their life, they'll listen to you. There are so many people in this universe with power, and yet so few good leaders. Look at me. A commander telling a captain how to be a leader.
No, please, I wanted you to speak your mind. I can only hope that I can follow through. Sometimes, you're in such a race to advance your career that you forget what you're supposed to do once you get there.
You will, Captain. Despite what I've said, Captain Santiago can certainly come off as an arrogant jackass. He has that big certificate on the wall of his ready room that has big letters that announces that he's a graduate of Red Squad. If you're an officer meeting him for the first time, he'll eye it repeatedly until you ask him about it. I know it irks some of the other officers. Most of us are just ordinary graduates, mind you. I'm not entirely sure what makes a Red Squatter so special.
But you're a first officer at the age of 27. That's no small feat. And from what I hear, you do a good job at it.
Thank you, Captain. That means a lot coming from you.
He must be giddy with joy having won that race. I can't believe I lost.
I should probably keep quiet then.
I've had the fortune of knowing him since we were young cadets. He always had to get the last word or the highest score. His brilliance made it all the worse, too, since in many instances, he indeed got the last word and the highest score. For a while, I hated him. I just couldn't stand the guy.
What changed?
While we were at the academy, there was a time when we were on the holodeck on a piloting examination. Remember, this was Red Squad, so the competition was intense. Out of 23 classmates, the bottom 6 were to be eliminated in a series of consecutive exams. There was no room for error. We were piloting along a complicated asteroid field where the trajectories were unpredictable. At one point, I got extremely greedy. I tried to rush through a tight space that I thought I could make, but it was one that was closing rapidly. I punched it up to full impulse, but I ended up ramming my shuttlecraft into one of the asteroids. I suffered major damage. But more alarmingly, the holograph simulation did not end. I quickly realized that there was something very wrong with the safety protocols. The only one who had realized what had happened or even bothered to try and help me was Alan Santiago. He realized what was going on, and he deviated from his course to try and help me. He quickly transported me off the shuttlecraft instantly before it finally got crushed between 2 of the colliding asteroids. It all happened very fast, but that meant that he lost an entire 6 seconds from his time. In this kind of competition, 1 second lost is too many. Both he and I came in last place, and we were eliminated from further examination. We couldn't move on to the next class. The instructors saw what had happened, but they insisted that there was nothing wrong with the safety protocols. Records show that they were in fact functioning within normal parameters when the simulation was being run. That was bullshit, and I had the injuries to prove it. Naturally, they didn't give Santiago any credit for saving me. They would not allow for a retest. They wanted to know who would do what was needed to get ahead, and to them, it wasn't Santiago. Alan never says anything about it now, but I know that he always resented me for it. It was a stroke of luck that we were allowed to retest the following year. We both worked extremely hard following the accident to catch up. We couldn't let anything get in the way of our goals. In the end, though, Santiago came out ahead of everyone else. We were close friends since, or at least until we graduated Starfleet. After we got our first assignments, we really didn't keep in touch.
I wouldn't have guessed that about Alan.
The competition at Red Squad is cutthroat. Most of the other cadets didn't want to know that I was in trouble, so they just pretended not to see me. In Red Squad, you either make it or you don't. I owe Alan my life. So, that's your captain. I hope you don't need me to tell you that I would prefer it if you didn't mention anything about this to him.
Of course, sir.
Good, because I still hate his guts. I hope I've at least inspired you.
Thank you, Darren, you have. Well, I should get back to the Excelsior. I have a report to prepare for him. I sincerely hope that I have the honor of working closely with you on this mission, Captain Seth.
Likewise, Commander.
Ariele left the bridge and headed towards the transporter room, leaving the captain to himself on the bridge. He looked at his watch. 02:59 hours. He quickly realized how sleepy he had become after talking with her. He got up from his chair and headed straight for his quarters. Barely after the clock hit 0300, the captain fell to sleep.